Today, I'm going to show you how to use a dovetail jig to make half-blind dovetails. So this dovetail jig cuts 4 different kinds of dovetails. Full through dovetails, half-blind dovetails, offset dovetails, let's see what else we got, rabbited half-blind dovetails, and regular box joints. And today we're going to do a traditional half-blind dovetail. So let's get started. So we're going to secure this to the bench here. I cut my sides and the front and back on the table saw already, and it's important that you label everything to ensure that you cut everything in the right order. So I have my front, back, and the 2 sides. I'm labeled my corners 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I also want to mark an arrow up on the inside of each piece. Included with the jig was a 14-degree dovetail bit and the guide bushing. I've installed that in here, and now we want the bit to be 9/16 inches above the base. So this jig has these 2 stops on both sides, and we need to set them for repeatable cuts. So we're gonna bring our board in here, and we want to center the fingers on this board so we have the same amount of pins and tails on each one. So we're centered there. I'm gonna slide this stop over here. We look good, and I will tighten that down. Now we have to do the same thing over here on the other side. So we'll move that over, and we want to be about right there. Looking good, and we'll tighten that down. So I have my drawer laid out. This is the front and this is the left side. I'm going to take the left side inside out and then put that into the left side of the jig, up against the stop that we put in there, and I will clamp this down. So now I'm going to take the front inside out, position this joint number 1 to 1, up against the stop, and up against the front piece. I'm going to clamp that down. I'm going to reposition this guy so it's nice and flush, and clamp that down nice and even. Both pieces are up against the stop. Left joint on the left side. When we cut the right joint, we'll use the right side of the jig. So once again, it's really important that the inside of the side is facing out and the inside of the front is facing up. So now we need to set this template to the right depth. And there's a handy little chart in here that says where it needs to stop. We have 3/4 inch half-blind dovetails, and so we needed to set it to B. We'll tighten that down. If you're always using 3/4 inch stock and you're always cutting half-blind dovetails, then you'll never have to move this. The last thing we need to set is the stop bar here, which will stop the router from cutting too deep. We have 3/4 inch thick material, and so we want to use the full depth. If you are cutting thinner material, you'll need to move the stop bar closer, and there's a formula that you can use to set that distance. But we have 3/4, so we're just gonna push this all the way back, and we are ready to cut our first joint. I do have the optional dust collection system hooked up to this, to my shop vac. I have a dust mask and some hearing protection. We will cut from left to right, and this bushing will follow along the fingers here. Now we can take these boards out. So once again, this is our front and this is the side, and they will go together just like that. And there we go. If it is too tight or too loose, you can adjust that by moving your bit up and down. So once again, this is the front. We're going to cut the right side. So I'm going to take the right piece inside out, put it into the right side of the jig and clamp that down. Back over here, take the front, inside out, inside up, slide it into the jig and clamp that down. And then I will get this aligned so they're nice and flush up against the stops. Now we're ready to cut this joint. And there we go. Now we're just going to repeat the process on the other side. So this is the back, this is the left side. I'm going to take the left side facing up, insert it into the left side of the jig, take the back inside out, clamp that down. This is the right side. Gonna go into the right side of the jig, inside out. Clamp that down. Take the back piece, inside up. Clamp that down. To finish this box, how about we go and cut a groove in the bottom here and then insert a plywood bottom. I'm going to lower my blade so it's actually lower than the dovetail. We'll cut a groove along the bottom. As long as it's lower, the blade is lower than that dovetail, it won't come through the other side. So I'm just going to move my fence over. Oh, about 1/4 of an inch. If it doesn't fit, what you can do is nudge the fence over, run everything through again until you get a nice, good fit. It's always best to cut it too big and then nibble away until you get the right size. I don't glue the plywood in the bottom. I just let that free float. This will make a very, very strong joint. Cool. We'll let that dry. I'm gonna take a wet paper towel and wipe out the glue on the inside there. Don't forget to sand the inside of the pieces before gluing up. It's much easier to sand before clamping. While this is drying, I'd like to tell you about my Patreon. If you like this video and you like what I do, you can help support me on patreon.com/Picciuto. My Patreon supporters get behind the scenes and a weekly vlog. Plus we do giveaways and one-on-one Skype calls. So check out patreon.com/Picciuto. I also have t-shirts and hoodies for sale in my store. There'll be a link down below for you to check that out. All right, so let's take these clamps off and do some final sanding. Yes, there is a little bit of setup with this dovetail jig, but once you're set up, you can cut dovetails all day. And if you stick with the same thickness of material, for instance 3/4 inch material, you don't have to do much setup each time you start a new box. This particular dovetail jig is made by Rockler. This is not a Rockler sponsored video. This just happens to be the dovetail jig that I like the most. The cool thing about this is you can get different dovetail templates to put in here to make different styles of dovetails. I like to keep mine simple. I like the half blind dovetails. It makes for a really strong joint. Thank you for watching. We put out new videos when?
Tuesday and Thursday.
Thursday, usually Tuesday and Thursday. You can find my website at makesomething.tv. I have all kinds of plans and patterns for sale over there, along with books and t-shirts and hoodies and all kinds of good stuff. All right, guys, we'll see you Thursday with a new video. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something. We'll leave that in there.